Kremlin's grip tightens on Moldova, but Chisinau fights back with bold moves. West surpasses Russia in ammunition production as Mark Rutte calls for stronger defense. Here's the latest, so you will be in focus. Subscribe and stay tuned. The Kremlin continues its attempts to bring Moldova back under its influence. This was stated by the country's president, Maia Sandu. According to her, Russia is trying to place loyal individuals in key government positions. However, Chisinau is giving a firm response. The parliament has rejected friendship groups with Moscow and Minsk, and the government is preparing to close the so-called Russian House. Nikita Skoblikov will report on Moldova's opposition to Russian influence.
For the first time in 34 years of Moldova's independence, the country's parliament refused to create friendship groups with Russia and Belarus. This was announced by Vice Speaker Doina German. According to her, there are currently friendship groups with 54 states in the parliament, but Moscow and Minsk are excluded from this list. Former Moldovan president and leader of the socialists, Igor Dodon, called this, I quote, a shameful case, and demanded the countries be returned to the list. However, as German emphasized, the decision has already been finally made by the Parliamentary Foreign Policy Commission in response to Russia's aggression against Ukraine.
The Foreign Policy Commission of the 12th Convocation refuses parliamentary friendship groups with Russia and Belarus during Russia's aggressive war against Ukraine. We firmly believe in the necessity of maintaining friendship groups with countries that respect the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of the country, as well as human dignity and freedom. Doina German, Vice President of the Moldovan Parliament, on Facebook.
Chisinau continues to limit Moscow's influence. The Moldovan government approved a bill to terminate the agreement with Russia on creating and operating cultural centers. Following this, the so-called Russian House in the capital is being prepared for closure. The Russian embassy has already stated that such a decision is allegedly groundless and counterproductive.
The government approved the denunciation of the cultural agreement with the Russian Federation, supporting steps to close the Russian Center for Science and Culture in Chisinau, considered a tool of hybrid influence by the Kremlin. A vote in parliament will follow, after which the Russian side will be officially notified of the Republic of Moldova's withdrawal from this agreement. From a publication by Teleradio Moldova.
In Chisinau, they emphasize that Moscow uses this cultural center as a tool of hybrid influence. Meanwhile, there is simply no equivalent Moldovan center in Russia.
Unfortunately, these centers do not represent Russian culture, but represent Russian aggression. They have many events, not only in Tiraspol. They have an office. In fact, to put it in perspective, this is the Russian agency Россотрудничество, which is under sanctions.
And although Chisinau consistently limits Russian influence, Moscow is trying to regain its presence by promoting loyal individuals to key positions in Moldova. This was stated by President Maia Sandu at the Euronews World Summit. According to her, the Kremlin cannot fully reach Moldova only because Ukraine is resisting. But if Moscow regains control, Moldova risks becoming a gray zone, a territory for money laundering, corruption schemes, and security threats on Ukraine's border. Sandu recalled that Russia's attempts to influence Moldova's internal politics were particularly evident during the parliamentary elections.
Well, it's easy in Moldova to see Russia's interference because it's been brutal and most of the citizens have seen it. There were many dimensions, of course, the disinformation and manipulation and trying to threat the people with the war that if you vote for EU, then what is happening today to Ukraine is going to happen to you. Attempts to discredit the Moldovan state and the Moldovan authorities, attempts to organize violent protests, the illegal financing of political parties and campaigns, and even attempts to buy votes.
Russia's interference in any Moldovan elections has become a full-fledged tradition. According to Bloomberg, during the September 2025 parliamentary elections, Moscow had a clear three-point plan. The first was recruiting Moldovan citizens abroad, including in Russia, to vote at polling stations in EU countries and other states. The second was a large-scale disinformation campaign on social networks. Telegram, TikTok, and Facebook spread messages against Maia Sandu, calling her a foreign puppet and accusing her of leading the country to catastrophe and war. And the third point was organizing street protests. According to investigators, Russia involved young people from sports clubs and criminal groups to create provocations and violence during voting, and then protests after the elections. Reported by Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
NATO has outpaced Russia in ammunition production, according to Mark Rutte, head of the alliance, during a defense forum in Romania. He emphasized that the alliance must remain prepared for challenges, adhering to the principle of peace through strength. Meanwhile, Swedish Air Force Commander Jonas Wickman urged NATO to learn from Ukraine's experience in order to be ready for future threats, as the tactics of warfare in Ukraine evolve week by week.
If recently Russia was ahead of NATO allies in ammunition production, now the situation has radically changed. The alliance has increased its pace and taken the lead, stated NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
First on quantity, we already have state-of-the-art systems, the best of the best. These give us an edge, and we will keep it sharp. But we need more, and we need it fast, and that means increasing production and shortening delivery times. We are already turning the tide on ammunition. Until recently, Russia was producing more ammunition than all NATO allies put together. But not anymore. Across the alliance, we are now opening dozens of new production lines and expanding existing ones. We are making more than we have done in decades.
At the same time, northern countries urged the alliance to accelerate the development of weapon systems amid Russia's war against Ukraine. Otherwise, NATO risks losing the next decisive conflict in Europe. This was stated by Swedish Air Force Commander Jonas Wickman. He believes the alliance should learn from Ukraine and emphasize the need to establish closer cooperation between air forces and the industry of member states.
I'm not talking about partnership for peacetime. I'm talking about a capability for wartime operations. If we can't develop in a faster pace, if we cannot innovate and learn under pressure like Ukraine does, we may lose a future war with Russia. What has been observed in Ukraine is a masterclass in accelerated adaptation. Jonas Wickman, chief of the Swedish Air Force, in a publication by Breaking Defense.
Other northern European countries called on industry to provide them with new technologies tested in Ukraine. Recent intrusions of so-called unknown drones into European territory have led to strengthening NATO's presence on the eastern flank, writes Breaking Defense. For example, in Sweden, they are developing a system for implementing an airborne early warning and control platform. NATO countries are currently completely unprepared to combat enemy drones, and they have much to learn from Ukraine, not the other way around, note military analysts.
Now drones have changed absolutely everything, and the best drone experts in the world are Ukrainians. I've seen videos in situations where a swarm of drones is against one soldier. Even one drone can lure a soldier into a trap, and another attacks him from the other side. That is, we are already seeing drones becoming more lethal. This will change the way war is waged in all countries. Not only drones, but also how to protect your roads, how to protect your airports, how not to let drones invade your territory. Therefore, Europe must quickly learn from Ukrainians how to protect its skies.
Ukraine is a leader in drone-related technologies, emphasized NATO Secretary General earlier. Therefore, the alliance is adopting its experience to develop new methods of combating cheap drones instead of expensive missiles. Ukraine will begin helping Lithuania protect its skies from drones that increasingly violate the country's airspace. And not only that, reported President Volodymyr Zelensky.
We are working together with Gitanas so that in our region, all free countries and leaders interact more. We have many common security challenges, in particular for air protection, from threats from Russia, from Belarus.
Ukraine is also fully participating in the development of the Drone Wall project, aimed at creating a new defense system in Europe to protect against drones. Ukrainian drone manufacturers, whose projects are considered among the best in the world, will be involved in its creation. In particular, Kyiv is ready to send technical teams to train specialists who will become part of the Drone Wall project. Reported by Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.
What's your take on all this? Share your thoughts below. This is UATV. Stay sharp, in focus, and stay safe.